Good morning, everyone. Today is Thursday, October 22nd, 2020. My name is Karen Bodenschatz. I serve as Associate Pastor at First Lutheran Church in Onalaska, Wisconsin, and I'm wearing some llama socks this morning next to the fire because it's really dark and cold outside, and they're unloading something at the house across the street. And I'd show you my llama socks, but I'd probably hurt myself. I just love that I'm wearing llama socks. That's not what I'm going to talk about today. I've been thinking a lot about the fruits of the Spirit in this kind of longer term work that the Spirit has been doing in me to figure out a deeper way to live, as what I think I'm settling on, the way of life that fears, loves, and trusts God above all things. I think that's at least right now, that's the trajectory that this is taking. So I'm spending some time with the fruit of the Spirit, and we find a listing of those fruits in Galatians chapter 5, verses 22 and 23. And this is Paul talking about kind of contrasting the works of the flesh with the fruit of the Spirit. And this is where he lists those fruit of the Spirit. If you want to read more about it, Galatians 5, the whole chapter, or the whole book of Galatians is only 6 chapters, so you could totally read it in one sitting. But verse 22, by contrast, the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, generosity, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. There is no law against such things. So I've been thinking about what those look like in my own life, and recently had an amazing story of generosity that I have been kind of living with and allowing to work in me. As many of you know, if you've watched worship or if you're a friend of mine on Facebook, my mom fell a couple weeks ago. It'll be 2 weeks on Friday. And last week on Friday had surgery in her humerus. She broke her humerus in 4 places. And so has had surgery to put that all back together. And as things settle down now, I'm thinking about that day. We were out, we weren't at home. We were out on our way to the orchards and stopped for some coffee when she fell. So we were down in Viroqua, and after she fell, I'm looking down because she fell on the ground. I was sitting next to her, kind of trying to assess her, and a woman came up who obviously had some medical knowledge because she was asking all the questions, and then ended up talking to the EMT, was assessing my mom from head to toe, did all the things that I had learned in first aid a long time ago. And I don't know where she came from. I don't know if she had been waiting for coffee, if she had planned to stop for coffee, or if she was on her way to work. I don't know. I don't know. I know her name was Jennifer. And Jennifer sat there with us while we waited for the ambulance, which turned out to be a lot longer than usual because the 2 ambulances in Viroqua were in other communities. So we had to wait for an ambulance from another community to come and get my mom. It turns out, though, that Jennifer was a nurse midwife, and some of you know that my mom worked in OBGYN for 50 years. And so as my mom was laying there trying very hard not to be in too much pain, although that pain got worse and worse as we waited, they traded stories of births as people who work in OB do. And there was a super calming presence from Jennifer as a nurse midwife. They just kind of ooze that, I've learned. I've known quite a few nurse midwives in my life. We sat there for about 25 minutes, and then Jennifer helped get my mom into the ambulance. And we air hugged because, you know, COVID, and then she left and we went to the ER, and we haven't seen her. We think we figured out who she is, so that we can send her a note. But I've been thinking about Jennifer and her incredible kindness and her generosity of time. It wasn't like 2 minutes. It was like a half an hour. But it's been asking of me, how generous am I of my time? How do I live out these fruits of the Spirit? I don't know anything about Jennifer's religious background. I know her grandfather was an ELCA pastor. Who knew? But that's about it. We didn't talk about that. But I do know that in that moment, she was the Spirit of God coming to us in a time of need. I think my Facebook post called her an angel. And so it's just gotten me thinking about the fruit of the Spirit and how I live those out, and seems to be a part of a larger pattern in my life of seeking ways to live more deeply as a follower of Jesus. So I'd love to hear ways that you've experienced those, or that you've lived the fruits of the Spirit out. What are some incredible acts of kindness or generosity or love that could only be described as acts of the Spirit, the Holy Spirit working in your life? I'd love to hear those stories. And what ways are you working toward doing that in your own life? I know a lot of your stories because I've experienced them in these last couple of weeks. But let me know. And until then, be well, be kind, for Christ is with you.